Hey everyone, Geophysicist Stefan Burns here. There has just been a gigantic eruption from Mount Dukono in Indonesia. This is Indonesia's most active volcano. Currently, it's been erupting on and off since 1933, but this eruption is different. Most of the time, the ash column goes up 1,000 meters. That's like 3,000 feet or below. It really doesn't extend up all that high. Well, as you can see, this ash column is huge and it reached extraordinary heights. So it went up to the tropopause, the boundary between the troposphere and the stratosphere, which exists around a flight level of 11,000 to 12,000 meters above the surface. This ash column being recorded to 11,000 meters above sea level. So this was a huge eruption from Mount Dukono today, May 8th. This occurred at 8:50 a.m. local time, right after sunrise. Interesting to note that we had a big solar flare on the sun just a few hours before that. Then as Indonesia, then the earth rotates into view of the sun rises, boom shakalaka, you get this volcano to explode. So we're watching this very closely. We could get more activity. Thankfully, it's not that common to see big eruptions from this volcano, at least in the historic record. But at the end of the day, volcanoes are very unpredictable and anything can happen. So this is a volcano to watch very, very closely. So let's see where Mount Dukono is on the globe. We see Indonesia here. We see the Philippines. Keep in mind, we've been having big activity from Mayon Volcano in the Philippines. We had a magnitude 6 earthquake there recently. It's the strongest of the past week. So there's been a lot of earth activity right in this location just over the past 7 to 10 days, Mount Dukono being the latest. So here it is. And it stands out very clearly from the landscape, as you can see, just rising up above the surface. Even this satellite imagery has this ash cloud going out, though this is not super up to date, but just showing that this volcano is very, very active. We can see how the ash cloud typically is hugging closer to the ground. And we can look to see what this volcano looks like more from the ground. Here we see some imagery. So it's not one of these giant stratovolcanoes with a perfect cone like Mayon Volcano in the Philippines. They're very proud of that. It is a little bit more rugged, huge caldera. And a lot of tourists actually go up the slopes and look down on it even while it's erupting and spewing ash and more. So it's really the most active volcano in Indonesia, and it's been active since like 1933. This period of activity now, it's almost 100 years long, is a bit unusual in the historic record, though that record is a little spotty. But this is a big volcano, and it is possible for there to be big eruptions here. So it's had a VEI3 eruption in the past, but again, with volcanoes, maybe it can do something bigger. This is a big one happening today. We can also look at this imagery taken here by the Indonesian geologists, and you see just not only the height of it, but also the width of this ash column. So really quite significant. And I want to show you the satellite imagery of this because this is really incredible. So we can go over to zoom.earth, which is a website for looking at weather and satellite imagery and all this stuff. So I have it right now set for 2 p.m. This is my own local time, but basically it is dark and it's about to be sunrise for Indonesia. And we can just hit play here and you will see all of a sudden the sun rises, and then watch this eruption occur from Mount Dukono and the ash cloud. Incredible stuff. So we even have the satellite imagery of this up to date. This just occurred in the past 3, 4, 5 hours as I filmed this video right now, though you may be watching this a little bit after the fact. If you want to stay up to date on all this stuff, then make sure you subscribe to my channel. Here we have an information page by Magma Indonesia. These are the geologists I was talking about, and they released an update today on Dukono volcano. Here's that photo I showed you earlier, and we're looking at this specifically so you can see the timestamp right there. It's 7:41 local time in Indonesia that this started to erupt. And you see here that the height of the eruptive column was observed at 10,000 meters above the peak, and that is about 11,000 meters above sea level. So again, right to the boundary of the stratosphere, which is really interesting because if we look at our solar activity, we see that we had a 2.6 M-class flare today, and that was at 1500 UTC. So this is universal time. If we do the translation from Indonesian time to universal, that comes in at 10:50 p.m. or 22:50. So we had this solar flare on the sun when it was dark in Indonesia. Then right as the sun rose over Indonesia, we had that volcanic eruption right there about 7 hours later. So really incredible. You really can't make it up. And if we look at our 7-day view for our solar flare activity, you see that we haven't really had any big flares. This is the biggest flare. And that sunspot, in fact, actually wasn't even on the Earth-facing side of the sun. It was a much larger explosion. We only caught a little bit of that energy in order to measure it. We see here this M-class flare. Well, we had a 6.0 magnitude earthquake that popped off in the Philippines shortly afterwards. So now we have the biggest earthquake of the past week occurring right after a solar flare, and the biggest eruption of the past week right after this even larger solar flare, which we can look at with our SUVI imagery. Now here we have our sun for the past 24 hours. We're looking at a 304 angstrom view, and I'm really showing you this because A, I track solar activity and space weather a lot, but B, also just the parallels are really fascinating between what happened on the sun and what just happened in Indonesia. There is that 2.6 M-class flare. This is a very active sunspot. It gave us 2 X-class solar flares, the strongest that you can get. During its last rotation, it's rotating into view. But we have this giant eruption on the sun with the plasma going out, just like this ash cloud from the eruption in Indonesia just hours before. So, and then you had the fact that Indonesia rotated into the view of the sun. It was sunrise, and immediately after the sun rose, you had that eruption. It's really incredible, and to me, it shows that there is a connection between them, just at least at some deeper level of existence that we're still trying to understand. But we also do know that we are more connected to our space environment than many people realize. So for example, we can look at our atmospheric layers. So this is just a representative diagram. It's not to scale because in fact the atmosphere surrounding our planet is a very thin layer. All of it is a very thin layer compared to the size of the Earth. But we have the Earth itself, we have the troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere. Exosphere is where the density is very low, and actually now you're in the plasmasphere. So this is the domain of the sun. We just saw that plasma launch off. Well, the troposphere is where we all live. This is, and even like the first 2 kilometers is the boundary layer. So this only goes up about 10 kilometers, 11 kilometers, 12 kilometers, a little bit of variation depending on where you are in the globe, local dynamics. But this ash cloud went all the way to the boundary of the tropopause, which is where the stratosphere begins. And that's important because there's a lot of circulation in the troposphere. There's less circulation in the stratosphere. It's a unique atmospheric layer. Each of these layers is quite unique. So if you have a volcanic eruption that's able to launch and shoot all that ash and material and debris into the stratosphere, now things are getting serious. That's what happened back in 2022 with the Hunga Pai eruption, which was a VEI 5.8 eruption, biggest eruption of the 21st century. It launched a huge amount of ash and injected a tremendous amount of water vapor into the stratosphere, part of the atmosphere where you typically don't have that much water. So we're still dealing with that at a global scale in terms of our climate. And so if we continue to see big activity from the volcanoes around the world, specifically it seems in Southeast Asia with Mayon Volcano and Mount Dukono, well, we could be in for some climate effects as a result of this. So that's the biggest geo news for you today, a gigantic eruption from Mount Dukono. I will keep you up to date on everything that's occurring with the Earth geologically, with the sun, solar activity, space weather, planetary alignments, interstellar and cosmic forces, and much more. I'm your guy, I'm your host Stefan Burns. Thank you all so much for watching. Please smash that thumbs up button to help the channel grow. Subscribe to stay up to date. I release videos almost daily, either here or on my main channel. Both are linked in the video description. Wishing you well. Hopefully everyone in Indonesia is fine. They are used to this sort of activity, though this again is a bit bit bigger than normal. So send your prayers that way. Thank you all so much. Have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next video.